This week on the Orange Box Podcast, we talk a bunch about the actual Game Awards announcements and more. All of this tonight, but first, on to the new Beautiful Bean intro. Welcome to the place where PC and console gaming talk combine. This is the Orange Box Podcast, episode 1185. I am your host, the man who won nothing at the Game Awards while dressed as a clown and eating popcorn, Nathan, also known as the Frozen Gamer 87. And joining me, as always, the man who will now refer to Expedition 33 simply as Mon Ami, Justin, better known as I Am Zerkan. How you doing today? How's your week been?
Okay. So I forgot to bring this up last week, but I had found sort of a I was looking for some DDR5 RAM, and I managed to find a bundle where there was like a CPU, and it came with the RAM, and there was also like a cooler tossed in, and I thought, well, the bundle makes the RAM cheap enough where even though it's slightly above MSRP, it's still within a tolerable range.
Okay.
So I went ahead and got it, and it came in the day after we recorded. So nice. I forgot to mention that. I was like, I'll mention it this week. So now I have RAM. I have Sweet. RAM for the future. So
how much?
That is 32. 64 is still just...
64 is way more than what you need, so 32 is good. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's definitely good, so that'll be ready and available
nice.
For when I build that. Thursday evening had my company party. That wasn't bad. Initially, I went there, did not see anyone I recognized for a while until I stumbled upon, or other people stumbled upon me, and then eventually, found the rest of my colleagues and stuff, and we were talking. I had a nice conversation with one person for a good part of the evening, and it was just a good time to see everyone outside of the work, and also they don't see me outside of work at get-togethers, so this was a rare occasion for them. And the following day, I delayed the live stream just because my sister was asking if I could happen to take my nephew over to gymnastics Saturday morning. And because it's so early, I thought I probably shouldn't be up that late, having to get up that early. So I decided to just postpone the live stream to this Friday. Although it turns out that I wasn't needed after all, since my niece was sick, so she didn't end up going. But I still got to at least sleep in, so that's good to get some rest. But yeah, other than that, I think that is everything that's happened.
All right. Well, I'm glad you at least were able to get some rest out of it, and I'm looking forward to seeing you play on Friday, and hopefully nothing else comes up. But yeah, that'll still be good. In terms of my week, not really much of anything to note in terms of since the initial days after we recorded, other than watch the Game Awards on Thursday and got to play some games while I did that. But obviously we'll be talking a bunch about the Game Awards, so I won't really talk about anything about that otherwise. But I'm trying to think. Saturday we had the Christmas party for the homeschool co-op parents, and so we did white elephant gifts and just brought food and stuff, and it was a pretty good time. I still don't really know much of anyone well enough to where I feel confident to speak up in general. That's just the way I am in general, so I didn't really have a whole lot of discussions with people, but still had a pretty good time, and the curry was a hit, so that was always good. Trying to think. Sunday we did church, of course, and did music that week. This next week, thankfully, I have the week off. My wife is still playing because our other violinist is getting married on Saturday. So he's, that's going to be good. He and his wife will obviously be on their honeymoon for, on Sunday. So my wife is going to be playing. I'm glad because while I like playing, I don't like playing Christmas songs because they're just not written for the guitar. So it's always tricky trying to lead on Christmas songs, and so I can just be back in the booth focusing on live stream and don't have to worry about anything else. So that'll be good. This Thursday I have my exam for certification. It's Microsoft 365 Fundamentals. I'm kind of antsy about it because I'm like half confident and half not. I mean, I've done some studying. I completed all the coursework for it like 2-3 months ago, but I just hadn't scheduled the exam, and so I finally got it scheduled for this Thursday because of the fact that it's like, okay, this is my last week of work before I get a couple weeks off for vacation. So trying to get that knocked out, and hopefully that'll go well. Initially I had so you have to do like a virtual thing for taking the exam, at least in my case. And initially I did like the testing and everything to make sure the computer was good to go, network situation, all that was sorted out. I tried doing it on my work laptop, which had worked before when I've done exams in the past. But it's like, no, you got these background processes running that could cause issues. And then it was saying the network wasn't working properly, so that was going to cause issues. And so they recommend use a non-work device and use a non-work network. I'm stressing out about it a little bit initially because of the fact that while I don't have a problem using my own computer, the main issue is that I couldn't think of a good place to actually do the exam if I do it at home, because the front room of our house, the Ethernet cable's busted. I had tried to fix it over the summer and I didn't fix it properly. I haven't been able to get it fixed. And the Wi-Fi signal is so weak that it just doesn't work out there. But we do have a Wi-Fi extender. It's just that it was set up with our old Wi-Fi network. And I had tried fixing it before and it wasn't working. So I was finally able to factory reset that, get it set up with our current network, and then tested it out, and the signal was strong enough, so I was able to do that. So I'm still taking my laptop into the office tomorrow because I always take it into anyway to edit the podcast, but I'm going to test it on the work network there first, see if it works okay there, and that way, at least if it works on the work network, I have the option of going to the office to do the exam. But if not, at least I know that the front bedroom, I can go in there and I have a work environment that will work for taking the exam. But yeah, and tomorrow we have our company Christmas party during lunch, so they're catering from Olive Garden, which is like the only time I ever eat Olive Garden. And then they'll be doing, like, giving away prizes and stuff, doing drawings and various other things. I can't remember what, but yeah. Anyway, I'm just glad that this is my last week of work for the year. So I just need to knock out a few more things and get as much of my KPIs done before the year's up. And then hopefully I can just rest and relax for the next couple of weeks. Other than maybe like doing some putting together some videos. I'm hoping to work on that a bit, but that might not be till after Christmas because this weekend I think is going to be a little busier. So
nice. I'll definitely be praying about your exam on Thursday.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, question. Did anyone get the Strong Bad reference at the
sort of. So I mean, like, they saw the tag on it because I put that it was Too Strong Bad from Homestar Runner, but and there were people who were familiar with Homestar Runner and all that, but they didn't really understand the reference of the DVD specifically until I explained it, and then they're like, okay, I kind of vaguely remember that, but it's been that tune came out 25 years ago, or almost 25 years ago, so, or I guess it's more like 23 years ago. No, 24 years ago. Came out 24 years ago, so it's even the people who are from around that time wouldn't necessarily have a ton of familiarity with all the little tunes and stuff. So yeah, but that's fine. All right. Oh, but we did both wear our ugly Christmas sweaters, both Lord of the Rings themed. Mine, of course, saying potatoes or taters, and then it says potatoes, boil them, mash them, stick them in a stew. And my wife's says Merry Christmas, you filthy hobbitses. So good stuff. But yeah, that's all I got. So what have you been playing this week?
Alright, so just to get this out of the way, I played Batman Arkham Asylum, and I'm pleased to say that I've gotten all the achievements for the game.
Nice.
Had to take care of the final combat challenge, and then I had to do all the stealth challenges, which weren't as bad as I thought they were going to be, but I just slowly knocked them out. Had to look at some videos just to see what I needed to do, but slowly got all that out of the way, and it's all done, 100%, and I'm pleased to be finished. I played some Satisfactory with some friends. It's been a while since I've played with them, and they definitely did a whole lot since I was gone. But yesterday, I was primarily tasked with trying to find hard drives that had been crashing around the planet, so I was just looking around there. Unfortunately, there were still plenty of things that could kill me. Fortunately, they had unlocked enough weapons that they had unlocked better gear while I was gone, so once I crafted that, I was like I was pretty good at that point, just to go and handle most of the threats. There were still some that were just, what in the world is this? I feel like we just need to nuke the entire area just to get what we need, but it wasn't bad. I think we're either close or we're about to, or we've already started working on nuclear power, so I think we're about several steps away from finishing the current phase before getting into the final phase to complete the game. So we're slowly making progress there, although I don't know when I'll be next available to help them out, but we'll see what happens with that. But then, as it was revealed at the Game Awards show, Expedition 33 had a new update with new content, and like the greatest of all times that that Sandfall Interactive is, they just shadow dropped that thing. All right, they're like, hey, guess what? New free content. Here you go. Enjoy, because we're just those people. And I started playing the new DLC, and so far it's pretty interesting. It's definitely it's just so in line with what you would expect, like a 5-year-old to be painting, in a sense, the whole environment. And so it's definitely great. I've slightly made some story progress, but I've been primarily just exploring the area around and trying to figure out how to properly time all of my blocks for the enemies, because that has been something that was an issue. Oh, which reminds me, there's this one Gestural, or I guess he's called a half-baked Gestural, or they're all called half-baked Gestural since they're all drafted. He has a challenge where you have to parry him 3 times. Apparently, he says it has to be 3 times in a row, but I didn't parry him 3 times in a row, but I still won the challenge. I don't know how that worked, but he messes with you because he constantly feints his attacks. So you think you see him winding up. He's like, oh, here it comes. Oh, there we go. Nope, nope, nope. Oh, here we go. Nope, nope. One more time. Oh, nope. Oh, here you go. Sucker punch. And I was just so frustrated because it reminded me of, I think you showed this showed it to me, the video about what countering is like in Expedition 33, where there's the one enemy just like, oh, there you go. And so that's what that fight felt like to me, just because sometimes he was feinting, sometimes he actually wasn't, and it just took quite a bit of a it was a bit messy there. But like I said, I got through that. Actually stumbled across a chromatic enemy, but fortunately that wasn't too bad at all, and I was able to take him out on the first try. And I will say that while it is possible to one-shot enemies, they aren't going to be one-shotted unless you actually do some serious buffing or stacking when you attack, because they're still pretty... They have enough health, I think, defense where they can survive attacks, essentially, even though most of my party is in the mid or either high 90s or just mid 90s. So I'm able to deal a lot of damage, but at the same time, they're definitely still capable of surviving. So I think that's pretty cool that the new area isn't just gonna be a walk in the park. I haven't gone to the Endless Tower yet to face the new super bosses, and that's just because I dread having to face some of these guys, especially Simon and
Duelistas.
Oh no,
two of them.
I don't need that in my life. But eventually I'll go back and do that. But yeah, I'm just going through the Versos drafts right now, and it's definitely pretty good. Nice, good addition to the game. And Sandfall, you did it again. Congratulations on winning the Game of the Year. But yeah, that is everything that I have played this past week.
Nice.
Oh, and I will say, I'm sorry, one last thing. And the game is Steam Deck verified, and I went to play it. It's still not decent. I mean, one thing I will say is that they now have FSR as an option, and it helps somewhat with performance, because if you tweak things, you can actually get close to 50 frames per second. But at the same time, it's a complete pixelated mess, and it's just ugly as sin. So I was like, and it's not even really consistent either, so I'm just like, no, I'll just stick with playing on my desktop.
Yeah, I really want to get into the DLC, but I have to make significant progress in New Game Plus to get there, because I'm still in Act 1, so it's like, it would be a while, because I'm guessing you probably can't even access this till Act 3 anyway, so...
Yes.
I mean, it's like, yeah, I'm strong enough that I can get through most of the content really fast and easy, but nevertheless, we'll see what happens with that. And then, of course, who even knows about the Endless Tower bosses, especially the new version of Simon. That's just going to be interesting. I mean, I've already seen that there are some broken builds out there that you can do that make it a lot easier, but one of the main things is that when you start the fight off, he always attacks first. First strike doesn't make a difference. So you have to be able to either parry his attacks, or just be prepared for him to take his I think he gets 2 turns before you even get a chance to attack him. So if you can survive long enough for that, then you can potentially take him out in one go with the right build. But yeah, obviously it'll be a while before I even get an opportunity to try that. So as far as what I've been playing this week, I will just mention briefly, because I didn't get to play it very much, but especially after the Game Awards and after Expedition 33 was supposedly Steam Deck verified. I decided to reinstall it on the Steam Deck, and yeah, it's still not great. I didn't try FSR. I just stuck with XeSS, and it's maybe a tiny bit better, but like especially in the open world, it's awful. Like the frame rate is just atrocious. And I mean, I still played a little bit. Like I got to the Gestral Village and beat Golgra. I got CL and beat Golgra, but I didn't do really anything beyond that. Just about to go to SKA's domain, whatever. I can't remember if that's the actual name of it or. But anyway, the point is that that's the next place for me. I'm not sure how much I'm really playing this right now. It's just kind of a more than anything, I was hoping that if I could get like a consistent 40 frames per second on Steam Deck, then I would probably be willing to play it. But to get a decent frame rate, you have to lower the visuals, and like you said, it just looks awful. Absolutely terrible. So who knows? But I did, on the plus side, get to bully one of the chromatic enemies that previously had given me a whole bunch of difficulty, and I took him out before he even got a chance to attack, so that was nice. And that wasn't even using Stendhal on him, so I used other attacks. I think I've had, like, of all the fights I've done so far, I think I've only had maybe 1 or 2 opportunities to actually do any parrying, and I think, yeah, I did manage to parry one enemy, which was one of the Gestrals you fight in the arena before you fight CL. So, but otherwise, yeah, I haven't been able to. Like, even when I fought Golgra, I got her down a little more than halfway with the first attack, and then and I almost got her all the way down with the second attack, and then she attacked, and I was not able to parry her, but the death explosion from Mael killed her, so it worked out. Still counted as a win. It's like, okay, I'll take it. But yeah. So yeah, that's really the extent of it. I think I probably played like 30 minutes maybe, and it's once again not really something that I think I'm going to be playing necessarily right now. If I do play more, it will probably be either on my desktop or my laptop. But right now it's not really a focus. So what I did play most of all was, actually, let me back up. I'll just mention briefly, I played some Assassin's Creed Valhalla while I had the Game Awards going, and I basically played that for like, I think a couple hours, and the only real reason I stopped playing was because I came across, like, I was trying to figure out how to get to a certain treasure, and I just couldn't figure out how to get to it, and I spent probably a good like 30-40 minutes trying to figure it out, and didn't really feel like looking it up, so I stopped playing, and then went back to what I played the most this week, which was Metroid Prime 4. And I finished the game. I beat it last night. I got 100% on both scans and items, which includes upgrades and everything. I would say that my thoughts aren't drastically different from what they were last week. Basically, kind of as a summary, like I sent a list of points of pluses and minuses of the game. So I'll just read those off because, I mean, you've probably already seen them, but I'll just read those off for the listeners. So the positives of Prime 4 after having finished it. The dungeons were fairly solid. They weren't necessarily on the same level as what you find in like Prime 1, 2, and 3, but still pretty decent. The boss fights were mostly good. I actually liked the boss fights quite a bit. Some of them were kind of excellent in some ways. There's a couple of fights in particular that really stood out, but really all of them were just solid. Like that was honestly probably the best designed part of the game was the boss fights. And I mean, they weren't necessarily like anything revolutionary, but there's one of them in particular. Well, there's technically two where you fight them while on the motorcycle, and one of them I thought was much better as a motorcycle fight, even though they both worked pretty well. But yeah, the fights overall were good. The final fight, which is shocker against Sylux, he did have his morph ball form, as you had mentioned, so that did come up. It was a pretty decent fight. It was second try on each phase. Thankfully, that was one of those that, I mean, one of the things that this game has, which I forgot to mention as a positive, is it does have checkpoints. Well, checkpoints like when you go into a boss fight, so you don't have to backtrack from the save point to get to the boss. You can just go back to the checkpoint right before the boss. So that saves a little bit of time. I consider that to be a positive. It's not necessary, but it's helpful. But then other pluses, the powers that you got were pretty similar to what you always got, but there were some unique twists to how they function. So for the most part, I thought positively about them. And I don't think that they were like anything revolutionary, because like I said, they were all not drastically different from what you get normally, but they worked. And, you know, I'm fine with it being basically more of the same, with just some minor differences here and there. Regarding the motorcycle, it was pretty much... It was mostly fun to drive and do combat with. There are some negatives I'll have to say about that, but I'll get to those. But at least when driving it, it was mostly a pleasant experience, at least in terms of how it felt, and when you got to do combat with it, particularly against the couple of bosses where you utilized it, that was pretty positive. The music was very good. Well, the music where there was music, it was very good. And I'll just note for listeners, I did end up taking advantage of a, I guess you could call it an exploit, but kind of sort of not, is and isn't. The amiibo can be scanned through the box, so you don't actually have to open the box to take advantage of the functionality of the amiibo, particularly the Samus one, which is what you need to unlock the radio for the motorcycle when you're driving it around. And so I bought the amiibo, I scanned it through the box, and then I returned the amiibo. Got my money back. So that definitely made driving the thing around a heck of a lot better than it was otherwise. And I mean, even though I could have chosen any number of tracks, I don't know exactly how many it had available, but I always just kept the Viola music playing all the time because I liked that song for that the most. So, yeah. The amount of backtracking, while it was definitely more, there was less of like self-directed backtracking, I guess you could say, because you kind of had to backtrack a little bit more. At least there was enough to where it didn't feel like, oh, there's no secrets to find whatsoever. But yeah. This is kind of a mixed one, but the number of scans was partially less annoying than it was in the previous Metroid Prime games. Partially, and I'll get to explaining that a little bit better. Basically, in short, the reason why it was partially less annoying is because there technically are a lot less scans you have to do. I think there's like a total of 100 scans total. So they're between lore entries, biology, machines, logbooks, that sort of thing. So technically there's only about 100 of them. that you need to scan, which really isn't that much, but I'll get to the part of it that made it less so good. Another positive, of course, is that the game is very well optimized. It runs extremely well on the Switch and the Switch 2. The Switch 2 is especially impressive because of the fact that, for one, you get 60 frames per second when you're running at quality mode, so 4K resolution and 1080p in handheld, or when you are running in performance mode, you get 720p 120 in handheld and 1080p 120 in docked. So performs really, really well. It was very smooth to play the whole time, and that definitely was a huge plus for this game that I would love to see them implement in Metroid Prime Remastered, and if they ever release the other games, same deal. Have that option. Honestly, that would be something that would make me more interested in keeping the Switch 2 is if they implemented that in Prime Remastered and Metroid Dread, and although Metroid Dread they could probably do 4K 120, but and then if they release 2 and 3 eventually and had those modes as well. So we'll see if anything happens with that. So last plus that I want to note is just that this is one of the few games that really does take advantage of the Switch 2's power. So both in terms of visuals and performance. I think that is a very good example. But then there's the negatives. So first of all, when it comes to the NPCs, even though it was not, I mean, having the voices off certainly made them less annoying. 2 of the 4 NPCs, actually, well, 2 of the 5 were just obnoxious and a pain to deal with. Because one of them was, of course, just really bad writing. The other one was like a fangirl for Samus. So it was also pretty bad writing. Then you have 2 of the soldiers that are more likable. One of which like feels like a genuine actual soldier. It's like a captain, and he's like hardened and feels like someone who actually is in the military, whereas those other 2 definitely didn't. And then one of them was like kind of a cliche lone wolf guy who's got like some mystic like Native American religion kind of thing going for him, and I mean reasonably likable guy, but they made the mistake of making it so that you have to, or you can, in order to get all the upgrades, you have to encounter him several times out in the desert, and you basically have to stop and sit by a fire and talk to him. Or, well, he talks to you. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay. I mean, not that the guy's completely uninteresting as a character, but this is not a Metroid thing. This isn't Red Dead Redemption. Why are we doing this? And so it just kind of felt like, okay, you're just adding another thing that isn't a Metroid thing. And then the very last NPC was just like a robot, which is about what you would expect from a robot, technical and not offensive. Probably, honestly, the least offensive of the characters in terms of NPCs, but still just not necessary either. But ultimately, none of these NPCs were needed for the game. Like, they really took you out of the immersion that you typically get from a Metroid game, where you have Samus, doing her solo mission and everything else. Like, I don't care if you run into someone occasionally, but when you have them more, I guess you could say, actively involved, it gets pretty annoying. And while there weren't necessarily a whole lot of situations where, I mean, I think there was really only the one time when the first NPC is like, you go here and here and here, and don't forget to save. But there were definitely plenty more situations where It's like, you just got an upgrade. Oh, here's the reminder to, go use, you should go back to this area because now you can probably access areas you didn't have access to before. And things like that. And one of the things that they added with that first NPC, which to me makes absolutely no sense, especially in light of the way the upgrades work in general, but in order to first install the ice beam, the fire beam, and the lightning beam, you get like a special chip from some of the machines that are in the area from the race that lived in this world. But instead of it being like, oh, it automatically installs to your arm cannon, or Samus does it entirely on her own. No, you have to go back to this NPC in order to get him to do some sort of like little modification that takes a few seconds, and then you can install it. But what makes it make even less sense is that when you actually want to upgrade it, like you get a stronger version of those beams, which is what you get from the shrines, which there's only a total of 6 of them. 2 for each beam, for the 2 upgrades for each beam. Those upgrades are automatic. And so it's like, why is it that you can have that the upgrades can be automatic, but the actual beams can't be automatic? It is a development thing that just doesn't make any sense at all. And it's just, oh my goodness. So yeah, the NPCs certainly were a big damper on the game. The next biggest damper was the desert area. It is filler content, plain and simple. That's what it is. It's just filler content. I've been trying to figure out, did they create the motorcycle because they created the desert, or did they create the desert because they created the motorcycle? Because you do use the motorcycle a little bit in a couple of the dungeons. Because like the Volt Forge is the place where you get the motorcycle in the first place. And there you have like a track thing that you go around to get from tower to tower. And then you also have one of the towers you go down underneath, and you have a test track where you learn how to drive the motorcycle and how to do combat with it and whatnot. So there's that, and then the lava one, Flare Pool is the name of the place. After you get the motorcycle upgraded, it turns into like a hover thing that you can ride over the lava. And basically it just ends up being like, but I mean, the place where you use it the most is the desert. The desert is just like a huge open empty area that has like, I think a total of maybe 10 to 12 buildings in the entire thing. And it's not like as big as a Breath of the Wild thing by any stretch. It's much smaller than that, but it's still just huge in a big square essentially, with 6 total of the shrines, which don't even belong in a Metroid game, and a bunch of green crystals randomly that you are supposed to collect them all, but like you can get a limited number of them at first, and then later on in the game more of them become available, and then later on the rest of them become available. And just basically this whole desert area, especially when you're riding a motorcycle, it feels it's like, this isn't Metroid. This isn't a thing that you do in Metroid. It's not that it isn't fun to drive the motorcycle. It is fun to drive it, but it doesn't belong in a Metroid game. And I think so much about the way that they could have made the desert work. How they could have improved this game so much, and like if they had just turned the desert into a much smaller normal type of biome, like what they've had in other Metroid games that has like distinct hallways and paths and secrets and everything else, that could have really worked. It could have worked just fine. They wouldn't have needed to have the motorcycle at all for that. And I think the motorcycle should just not be in this game. Like they easily could have designed the maps in such a way that the motorcycle was not needed And they could have just had it more like a traditional Metroid Prime game. They could have taken those maps, like where you have the longer stretches of track or whatever, like in Volt Forge. They could have just made it so that you have trams to transport you from one to another. It wouldn't have been as much fun, but then it also wouldn't have required the motorcycle. And then with the flare pool, which is the other place where you really use the motorcycle, they could very easily have just made the area smaller and then given Samus some sort of lava resistance that made it so she can walk on or through lava without having to worry about sinking and drowning. Yeah. So that's kind of it for that, but let me that's only the first 2 minus points, kind of like combining things a bit. Of course, the fact that there is another big minus is the fact that there's no music in the desert, which is the biggest area in the game, where you spend a bunch of time, unless you either buy the amiibo or 100% the game, which requires spending all this time in the desert, where having the music is just incredibly helpful. I mean, once again, this area shouldn't even exist, at least not in the form that it's in. If you know, if they had it smaller like it is in like Metroid Prime, where you have desert type areas, it could have worked just fine. And I thought about it some more, just kind of as a side note. And I realized that even though, like the other Metroid games all have, you know, these distinct biomes, and then there's not like a massive transition area from one to another, there are transitions. There are areas that transition from one area to another, and the environment slowly changes. And it's like, okay, the deeper you go into the earth, the closer you get to the lava and everything else. Or as you go higher up, you'll get into places like the Phendrana drifts that, you know, are icy and cold and everything else. There are ways that they can make it work to where it feels natural and maintains the feel of a Metroid game, instead of having these things that are clearly just dungeons, where you use the motorcycle to open the entrance to the dungeon. You get on a platform with the motorcycle, you basically spin the wheels, which raises the platform, and then extends another platform where it meets, and then you speed into the dungeon. And one of my buddies pointed out to me that basically all of these different places, they don't feel as natural. They mostly just feel like they're different, I guess you could say, buildings with like built around natural stuff. And so it kind of just makes everything feel less distinct. Because like, I mean, having, you know, a place that's more technical and all that makes sense. But when you have every single area has that type of thing going with it, then it feels less so like that. But yeah. Next point of contention for me is really just regarding the motorcycle, that it was really either it was added for the desert or the desert was added for it. It was just completely unnecessary. And if they had taken more classical design philosophy for Metroid, instead of, you know, doing whatever it was that they were actually trying to do, it would have worked a whole lot better. I kind of touched on this before, but the shrines, there's only 6 of them. They feel completely out of place for a Metroid game. I mean, you get the upgrades for your beams, and then there are some other upgrades that you get in the desert. I mean, in those sometimes, I mean, like you can find hidden missiles, or, I mean, you know, missile upgrades or what have you. Definitely a big thing. I've touched on this a bit before, but there's just way too much hand-holding in this game. It's obnoxious how much hand-holding there is. I mean, if I didn't have the voices turned off, it would have been a lot worse. But even with the voices turned off, there was still just too much hand-holding. Oh, and I do want to mention briefly, even though the voices being turned off worked the majority of the time, there were times where, particularly towards the end of the game, there's like 3-4 cutscenes where even with the voices turned off, it still plays voices. So it's like, I mean, that's kind of a small thing, but it's really just in general. Like, yeah. And kind of going back to the NPCs, I just want to mention something. They try to make you care about these NPCs, and while in the end, like, I kind of sort of care, at the same time I also feel like this isn't a Metroid thing. You know, the whole point of these games is Samus goes off into these very dangerous situations by herself, and she just, she does these very dangerous missions completely on her own. And yeah, you might occasionally have like a Federation person or whatever show up, but you see them once and then they don't bother you anymore. I mean, like Metroid Other M did it a little bit, and I don't remember exactly how much it did because it's been a little while since I played that, but still, in general, I mean, like, they weren't getting in your ear all the time, and it wasn't like every time you get an upgrade, oh, you should go check out this previous area and see if you can access new things. And another thing with that, so there was like a couple of occasions where I was inside of a dungeon and I was having a hard time figuring out how to do something, and it's like the one time that I want to call one of these NPCs to get some help, the radio doesn't work. Oh. It's like every other time. It's like it works out in the desert all the time. It works when I don't want to listen to them, but then when I actually would like a little hint, nope, you can't talk to them right now. It's like, well, that's great. Okay. Let's see here. So, of course, I basically touched on this already, but the character writing was just bad. I mean, it was bad. When it was bad, it was bad. When it wasn't bad, it was cliche. Like, the characters were just it was very predictable what kind of characters they were based on that. And like the only character that I legitimately liked that felt like an actual soldier, that wasn't just, I mean, that as much as he was cliche, he still wasn't as annoying, was Duke, who was like the commander, basically. And the other guy, Tokabi, who's like the hunter sniper guy that you have to talk to at fires. Like, he started out, I liked him just fine, and then by the time I was done talking to him at all the fires, I'm like, why is this in this game? This should not be in this game. Samus stopping to talk to someone at a campfire, or, you know, listen to them while she says nothing. It just, this is stupid. Okay, and then let's see here. Of course, another minus, I've already mentioned this before, the mouse mode is garbage. At least if you have big hands. I have seen that there are attachments to be able to, attachments you can get for the Joy-Con to do mouse mode that would be more comfortable, but I wasn't going to buy one of those because I'm only using it for this. I only would use it in this one game, and I didn't like it enough to where I wanted to use it, so I didn't bother. Green Crystal Collection, I think, was a completely pointless thing that basically was just there to fill the desert, give you something extra to do, because otherwise the desert is just so very empty. And I wouldn't have necessarily minded the Green Crystal Collection if there wasn't this big open desert where you have to constantly ride around and crash into them. And if it was just like, okay, there's, you know, green crystals strewn throughout the different biomes and you have to, you know, destroy all them, I'd be perfectly fine with that. But the fact that that's like the bulk of what you're doing in the desert, to me, just says this desert shouldn't have existed. One of the many things. Last thing I think I'm going to point out is the scan system. So while there's only technically 100 things you need to scan, the problem is that every time you encounter something, even if it's an item type you've already encountered before, you know, like a specific type of enemy that's just in a different area, or it's like a crate, like there'll be 3 different kinds of crates in a room, and even if you scanned all those crates, the next time you go to a different dungeon, biome, whatever, you'll see 3 crates, all that look like they need to be scanned, but it turns out that you don't actually have to scan those because the entries are already in there. So basically it's like they give you multiple opportunities to scan these different items, or like the spider ball rails and that sort of thing, but you don't actually have to scan them every time, but there's no way to know that you don't have to scan them because they're still green like they need to be scanned. And so it's just like, why did you... I would much rather... I mean, like, I scanned everything in the game. And there's so much stuff that I didn't realize until the end I didn't even have to scan. But the problem is that there's no way for me to know what I do and don't have to scan, because everything that's new for that area is green like you need to scan it, even if you don't actually need to scan it because you already have the log entry. And so it's just... I mean, Prime 1, 2, and 3 had a ridiculous amount of scans that you had to do. But you actually had to do all the scans. This one, you don't have to do all the scans, but there's no way that you would know that. And there's no way to know which ones you actually need unless you're specifically going through and, you know, checking them off as you go. But even then, you won't necessarily know because of the fact that there are a handful that are missable. Now, I mean, I did find out ahead, you know, as I was going into areas, okay, this is going to be missable, so I need to make sure I scan this. And I mean, I usually scan stuff anyway, but like, I remembered there was at least one situation where I had scanned a boss, I died to the boss, and then I came back in and I forgot to scan him again because I figured, oh, the scan's still there. And it's like, nope, it's not. Thankfully, with the bosses, at least, the majority of them, there's an area in the starting area of the Fury Green where you can actually view like images of the bosses. So if you missed the scan before, you can still scan them later on. But even then, there was like some of them that I would have the image of them display. It would show the image as green, even though I had already scanned the boss. It's just drive me crazy. Just realizing how much time I wasted scanning all these things just because they couldn't have a better designed system in place. It's just like, it's terrible. But anyway, with everything being said, I would say as a game in general, I think this game probably, as much as I had complaints about it, I give it a 7.5 out of 10. As a Metroid game, it would probably be a 6 at best. So it's like, I like the game. I like the game quite a lot, but it is not a good Metroid game. It just isn't, and it's definitely not a good Metroid Prime game. Like, for all the things that were really good about it, there's so many things that were not good about it that it just ultimately ended up feeling like this is what we waited for. Now, hopefully the next, since they're supposed to be doing like a trilogy out of this, they will get some enough honest feedback from people to where they'll listen to people. But I have a feeling they're more just going to listen to the people who gave them 9s and 10s, even though it's not really deserved. Yeah, I mean, this doesn't even come close to the previous Metroid Prime games, because for all the really good things about it, there are just so many things that are not Metroid, that are not Metroid Prime. They're just not Metroid, period. And I wanted to love this game. I'm still glad I played it. I'm glad that I decided to just stick with my Switch 2 until I finish this game, because, I mean, playing it at 120 frames per second is peak. Like, that is the best way to play this game for sure. But even with that being the case, it's just not a good enough Metroid game. You have to go, if you ever decide to try and play this, and I know you probably won't since you're getting rid of your Switch, but for people listening, if you ever decide you want to play this, I'm not saying don't play this. I think it's worth playing. Just go into it understanding that this is not the same as a typical Metroid game. Go into it expecting something completely different, and you can still enjoy the game, even with all of its flaws. So, oh, I guess just one last thing I want to mention with that, as more of a side note. So of course I'd been holding on to my Switch 2 because I wanted to play the entirety of this game before I got rid of it. But I just listed my Switch 2 again. So I've listed it on a couple different spots, and hopefully I'll get a bite on it. But yeah. I did play, let's see here, I guess I technically played 2 more games. One of them I don't have any footage for, but I'll just briefly mention. There's a demo up for Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade on Switch 2, so I did test that out. I only played like a tiny bit of the demo, like the first 10 minutes or something. Looks really, really good on the Switch 2. Like, it looks super great. Like, it is a gorgeous looking game. It probably looks better than it does on the Steam Deck, but it's been a while since I booted it up on Steam Deck, so I can't say for sure. Of course, it's also running at higher resolution, so, I mean, because, you know, it's a higher resolution screen, but it is a game that looks really, really good on the Switch 2 screen. And I think that they've fixed some of the HDR stuff to where it's better than it was before. It only runs at 30 frames per second, which, you know, that was expected and known. So that part's disappointing, but I definitely was very, very impressed with how good it looks visually. So there's that. But the last thing that I played, and I haven't gotten real far. I mean, I haven't played a lot. I only got to play like maybe half an hour today, but Xenoblade Chronicles X. I'm trying to get back into that. I want it to be kind of like the main game I'm playing for a while. I will say, if Nintendo somehow released a update patch for the Switch 2 to make this, 60 frames per second and higher resolution, that would get me to keep my Switch 2. Because this is the kind of game that I can put 100 hours into it easily, and by that point there would probably be something else worth playing on the Switch 2. But since I don't think they're going to be doing that anytime soon, right now I'm just playing it on the Switch 1, on the Switch OLED. So, but yeah, one thing I will say about Xenoblade Chronicles X, I forgot how bad the platforming is. Well, at least when it comes to if you're trying to be precise. And there's like one of the tyrant enemies, you know, one of the named bosses that I was trying to get to, and you have to do like platforming. But the problem, the jumping is so floaty, and then when you land, like, if you don't take your finger off the stick, you'll just keep moving after you land, and it's like, it was so frustrating trying to get up to this boss, but the footage that's playing is recorded directly from the Switch 2 and, the Switch on system of me fighting that boss once I finally got up to him. He wasn't even hard, it just getting up to him that was the problem. Very annoying problem. So, but yeah, that's everything I've been playing this week.
Okay. Well, definitely glad that you were able to enjoy Metroid Prime 4. A question I had, just because this is something that has been a recurring, I don't want to say theme, but it's something that has been required, and I feel like Metroid Prime 3 probably handled this the best. But were there any keys that you needed for the like final area sort of thing where you have to go collect it?
Yeah, each dungeon you complete gives you a key.
Okay, so you didn't have to like backtrack to get more keys right there like that, or get new abilities for the keys?
No, you just have to complete each of the dungeons, and then each one gives you a key, just like a Zelda game.
Okay, then they definitely changed that aspect too, which I guess I'm kind of mixed about, where I mean, I kind of liked exploring to find the additional keys, but at the same time,
yeah, definitely.
Some of them were a pain, but that's sort of like what made 3 sort of like the best, is the fact that you didn't need to get all the keys. You could get all the keys, but you didn't need to get all of them to get to the final area. But yeah. And then I guess, did they maintain the traditional fashion of having a post-credit scene if you get all the collectible, all the scans?
Yeah.
Does it seem promising in the future what's going to happen?
Well, there wasn't, like, I'm trying to think here. There wasn't necessarily it wasn't a teaser in the same way that you usually get. I don't know if there's something more than what I have. It's possible that maybe there is, and I didn't see it. I'd have to look it up on YouTube. I'm not going to replay the game just to get whatever extra thing there is. Not that I'll never replay it, but I'm not going to replay it now for that. Basically, if you did 100%, then Samus takes off her helmet, and she's, goes back to her normal Varia suit. And she goes off to a different planet basically, and it's kind of hinted that there's multiple other planets you'll visit in the future, but beyond that it's not really anything all that clear, and all I can do is hope and pray that the next game actually is a proper Metroid Prime game, actually takes the real criticisms into account. I can already say for sure that at least the motorcycle you have in 4 will not be in other games because of the fact, not because it gets destroyed or anything, but because it's specific to that planet, and as is the suit that you have there. So theoretically they shouldn't do that again, but we'll see whether they take the right feedback or that they just take all of the shills and the people who will praise it no matter what and refuse to acknowledge any faults.
A comment regarding the scan system. I definitely think it is weird that they don't indicate what you've already scanned, especially if you go into new areas, because in the past, if you scan something, there's a pretty clear, the color changes to the fact point where it clearly shows that this is something you've scanned before. And so even if you go into a new area, if you've scanned something like an enemy or, say equipment like the spider rail or, the booster cannon or something like that, it'll clearly, be a different color than the rest of the scan. So why they didn't do it this time around is odd. I mean, I appreciate the fact that they allow you to rescan stuff if you've missed it, but at the same time, if you've already scanned it, then it shouldn't it should still be the same color as if, it should be a different color, right, to show that, hey, you've scanned this before, even if it wasn't in that particular area. So that's definitely weird why they made that decision.
It seems like it doesn't seem like that's a problem with the enemies, but with everything else, that it does still pop up oh, you need to scan this one.
Let's see what other questions, comments I had about this. Bleh. Were there any sort of, I guess not. I was gonna say, were there any sort of mild, I guess, collectibles that you could use for your motorcycle, similar to how in Prime 3 in your ship you could get certain, I don't want to say decals, but you could get stuff like a bobblehead for your ship, or you could get something like that. Was there anything small that would
So no. Basically there's just you could get something that gives you additional boosts for your motorcycle, and that's it. There's I think 3 or 4 total of those boosts that you can collect.
Okay. But yeah, I think that's all. Those are all the questions that I had regarding that then.
All right. Sounds good. Well, let's get into talking about the Game Awards. And of course, obviously last week we did the fake Game Awards discussion about all the things that could have potentially shown up. But this week we're going to talk about actual games that were shown at the Game Awards. And there was quite a lot of stuff. Some really good stuff, and some stuff that was more meh. But there wasn't. I can't think of anything that was egregious, to the point where I just shook my head and did a face palm. So, why don't we just go ahead and go through, as usual, back and forth on stuff that stood out to us, and you can start us off.
All right. So one of the first things that I noticed, and initially I wasn't I wasn't thinking too much about it, but then as the trailer went on, I was like, actually, it seems kind of interesting. It's called Bradley the Badger, and I wasn't entirely certain what to expect from this game, and then as the trailer went on, realized that it's kind of like, I guess you could say, a Bubsy / Gex type of character with like all the references and stuff, but also the fact that you go into different worlds and they are inspired by other types of games like Badgerborn, which is inspired by Bloodborne, and we get Badgerborn before Bloodborne. Let that sink in. But I like the fact that while you're in these different environments, because it is a 3D platformer, there you can use your abilities to sort of manipulate the environment. So I thought that was pretty cool. That is sort of like, okay, you're not just hopping around between world to world and you just adjust to what's going on, which I mean you kind of do because of the different abilities that you have, but at the same time it's interesting enough that where you can sort of make it your own playground in a sense, based on the abilities you have. So I think that's pretty cool. I've wish listed that on Steam. Definitely interesting, and I'll see what more happens. It might not be a day one for me, but it's definitely something that I might get maybe close to launch.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually like really interested in this one. Of course, once I saw Badgerborn, at first I'm like, it's a Souls-like, and then of course as it changed to different games, it's like, okay, so no, it's still basically a platformer, but they add like, seems like different mechanics in some sense depending on where you are, because like Badgerborn definitely has some more Souls-like combat and that sort of thing, and obviously environments, but then it seems to also change depending on where you are, and I don't know, it seemed really interesting, and yeah, it's also on my wish list, and I'm definitely going to be keeping my eyes peeled for this one. I didn't see a release date on it, unfortunately. And I know it's in pre-alpha according to the trailer, so we'll have to wait and see what happens with that. But either way, yeah, I think it looks great. I'm looking forward to checking that one out. All right, well, one of the first ones that stood out to me, or rather just one of the first ones I have down right here, is a game called Exodus, which basically looked like Mass Effect, in just about every single sense. I mean, it's like a third-person shooter action adventure game from Wizards of the Coast, but it very much had a lot of like Mass Effect aliens and powers and all sorts of stuff like that. And like I was actually shocked at how cool this game looked. And I know this isn't the first time it was revealed, but this is the first time I've seen it. And I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I'm very, very interested in this game. This is very possibly a day one purchase. And it doesn't even, well, maybe saying a day one purchase is a bit generous, because I doubt it will be, but it's one that I am super interested in checking out and very likely will end up playing. Yeah, it just looks really, really cool. And since every time I played Mass Effect, I always played as really just more of a gunner. I never used any of the powers, any of the biotic stuff. That makes this one that much more interesting to me. So, yeah, I don't know. It just looks great.
Yeah, it definitely was interesting. Now, I haven't played too much of Mass Effect. I played 3 on the Wii U, but I don't think I got too far into that. But yeah, if we have like a sort of spiritual successor that, I guess spiritual successor you could say, that doesn't want to be Andromeda, then it's definitely great that we could have that type of game without having to wait for a proper Mass Effect game. So definitely good to see.
It does remind me that one of these days I actually should grab Andromeda when it's on sale for super cheap and see if I can mod it to make it better. Because I know that there are mods out, lots of mods, of course, so I'll have to look into that. Because I never bought it, even though I loved the Mass Effect trilogy. But I never played Andromeda because of all the bad press it got. And it's like, hey, if I could get the game for $2, I'll check it out. I'll pay $2, and if I hate it, then, well, it's only $2. It's not a big deal. I spend more than that on an energy drink, so yeah. Anyway, yeah, so that's all I have to say on that one. So what's the next game on your list?
Next game on my list is Gang of Dragon, and this is something that it's not something that I feel like is something I want to get day one, but I'm just intrigued by the fact that this sort of exists, and this is a game that is being made from one of the producers of the Yakuza games, and he seems to be making his own type of Yakuza game, essentially, and I'm like, alright, that sounds pretty cool, that sounds pretty neat. I mean, I wonder how well it could do, considering the fact that Yakuza is still, coming out strong and whatnot. And I mean, while it's different, there are the Judgment games that Sega also made that are kind of like Yakuza in a sense. But I think that it's definitely great that he's doing this game, because I think the only game that is kind of like this that wasn't made by Sega is Sleeping Dogs. I think that's probably the only game that has been compared to Yakuza in its style and tone. But if we have another game that is similar to that, I think that's definitely cool that we could sort of have that sort of become its own subgenre per se. You could have a Yakuza like, essentially. So yeah, I mean, I don't think this is gonna be day one for me, or I may or may not even get it at all, just because I still have plenty of Yakuza games that I haven't even finished or even started, so I would definitely want to get to those before I would tackle anything else. And after you play one Yakuza game, especially if you're trying to get like a lot of the achievements and stuff, you get burned out pretty quickly, so
yeah,
it's not going to be something that I would get at launch.
Yeah, I mean, this one seemed like it could be pretty interesting. I have not played any of the Yakuza games myself. I did actually grab the collection on GOG recently because of the fact they were delisting at least Yakuza 0. I can't remember how many of the other ones, because they were doing like a director's cut and whatnot, but I got the whole collection of games for a pretty reasonable price, so I may end up checking out one of them next year. It's at least on my list of potential games to play. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say on that one. I mean, visually it looked impressive. Obviously, it was all just cutscene, but still, I'm sure that even the in-game visuals will still look pretty similar, just not quite as detailed. So, yeah. Next game I want to bring up, we talked about before, and that is Lego Batman. And it just, the more I see of this game, I'm like, man, this game looks so good. They introduced the villains in this, and basically they seem to have combined the different iterations of each villain that have been in like the recent movies. Like they have Bane, and he has the the Tom I was going to say Hardy. Yes, I was going to say Tom Holland. It's like, not Tom Holland. Yeah, the Tom Hardy voice, but then the build and the the Venom pipes attached to him and all that. And then they have the Arkham-like combat almost, maybe. I mean, I guess maybe not. It's probably still more Lego combat, but I don't know. It just, it's looking fantastic. I'm very interested in this game, and I hope that it's as good as it looks, and that it's not going to be that it's going to be more Batman Arkham than Lego, unless because the Lego games are just even though they've gotten better over the years in terms of their gameplay, they're still not the best. They're still just very basic, and I would like something that's a little more complicated. It doesn't necessarily have to be as hard as Arkham, like as challenging or whatever, since it's a Lego game, but just make it like more interesting in terms of its combat and everything else. But like at least the open world stuff, what they showed looked pretty good. Driving the Bat Cycle and the Batmobile and all that looks pretty cool. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to checking this one out.
Yeah, this definitely looks very good and is... It's a shame in a sense because they later on revealed the price and it's $70. I'm like,
of course,
I'm not paying $70 for this. As
yeah.
much as I think it looks great and I want to play it, I'm not spending that much money. So
yeah,
I will wait for it to, have a decent sale or something like that. Not doesn't need to be like dirt cheap, but considering the fact that it's also going to have a season pass and DLC, I don't know how much DLC there's going to be. So if it's like how they've been doing it more recently, then we might have a couple season passes, which I'm just like, no, don't do that. But yeah, I'll definitely be holding off to get it. But like you said, it definitely looks great in how they're handling this, and I definitely agree. I think after Lego Star Wars, they start to make their games sort of cookie cutter in a sense, where it's more or less the same thing. I mean, with the exception of, say, Bionicle Heroes, the games have been essentially the same, more or less. I mean, there might be different abilities and stuff, but how the games work are the same. So if they're sort of branching off of that and trying to do something unique and different, I think that's great because, pre Lego Star Wars on like 6th gen consoles, Lego games were definitely quite different. I mean, I've played Lego Island and Lego Island 2, and those are more like adventure games, with with levels that you could go from start to finish, rather than just being like you have a hub area with different levels that you go through and you like solve basic puzzles and try to like get through the end. So if Lego is trying to sort of branch off from how they've established how they make their games, I think that would be pretty cool. And hopefully this is like the first stepping stone in that direction.
Yeah, for sure. I will say though, one thing, I'm definitely very impressed with the visuals. I think it's great. Like it has the Lego aesthetic, but then also just has like impressive lighting and everything else. Hopefully it runs really well too. So yeah, that's what I have on that one. So what's your next game?
My next game is Control Resonance, and I was perplexed, I'll say. Now, granted, I think it's mostly because I haven't played Control yet, but the tone seemed very different to me than what I would expect based on what I know of the first Control. Whereas this one seems to be kind of like, not necessarily a Devil May Cry type of game, but it's like you have a sword and stuff, and the environment looks just different than what I would expect based on what I've seen of the first Control. And like it's also different, whereas because now it's like you have close quarter combat, whereas before you were just using a gun and your telekinesis.
Right.
So I am very curious in regarding the direction they're going to handle this. Now, granted, like I said, I haven't played Control, so if what they're showing or what they showed in the trailer was kind of par for the course, then I obviously do not know that. But it's definitely intriguing how they're handling this. So it might not be day one for me, but I definitely would keep that on my radar.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, of course, this one definitely has me excited, because it is very much, I mean, well, I loved the first Control game. The first Control game was fantastic. It was just a stellar game, and I still need to go back and do all the DLC. Um, but I was actually really surprised to see that you play as the brother this time around. You know, I won't spoil anything story-wise, but I find that super fascinating that is going. I mean, that's the case. It just, to me, it was very unexpected, but I like the fact that they're bringing him in and then they're completely changing up the combat to reflect the fact that you're playing as a different character. Because playing as Jesse was like, it was really good. You know, like you said, it was ranged combat, telekinesis, all this stuff, and it was fantastic. And then playing as the brother, whose name I don't even remember his name, but you know, the fact that it's very visceral hand-to-hand combat, or well, not hand-to-hand, but you know, like melee combat with swords and hammers and all this other stuff. I'm just like, I am so sold. Like I would have been sold at another game with playing as Jesse again, because that was such a fantastic game. But this one, I'm like, yes, very yes. And of course, what makes this even better is that it's not Epic Games exclusive like the first one started out as. This one is actually going to be coming to Steam day one. So that's very, very good. I'm super excited about this one, but I still need to go back and finish all the DLC for the first game. In fact, I need to actually just boot that one up on my computer, because the last time I played it, apart from playing it on the Steam Deck, where I was really happy with the performance, last time I played it was on my desktop before I did any of my upgrades. So that was before I upgraded my CPU, let alone my GPU, and now I should be able to run it extremely well. Probably could even put on ray tracing if I wanted to, which I probably won't, but you know, I could if I wanted to. And still run it really well. But yeah. Maybe what I'll do is after the Steam controller comes out, I'll boot it up and finish up the DLC on the desktop, because having the gyro is very helpful for all the aiming. Yeah. All right, the next game on my list was Phantom Blade Zero, and this is of course not the first time we've seen this, but I'm pretty sure the last time we saw it, it was just entirely a cinematic trailer, and like I wasn't convinced that it was actually running on the PS5, because this is both PlayStation and PC. But yeah, actually getting a better idea of what the combat is like and everything, it seems like it's probably less Souls-like and more similar to Black Myth Wukong would be my guess. But it's very, you know, like fast-paced action and that sort of thing, and just looks great. So I'm super interested in this one. I don't know if it's day one necessarily, but I am very, very interested, and it looks like it runs really well too. So
yeah, I agree that what they showed with the combat is definitely great, and it does look like you have variety with your weapons, so it's not like you're locked into any type of build or anything like that, or you could make a build that suits your playstyle. So I think that's definitely cool there. Like you said, it doesn't necessarily look like it's more so Souls-like based with the combat, but no, I think overall it just looks good. Did we also get a release date for that one or no?
I can't remember, but the trailer is playing right now, so I'll let you know when it gets that far.
Okay. But yeah, I think overall it just looks great. And like you said, it's not going to be day one for me, but it's something that I will definitely have on my radar when it releases. And I think I also heard that it only has 1 year of exclusivity for PlayStation, so the following year, then it could be ported to Xbox.
Yeah.
And maybe even Switch too. Who knows?
Yeah. That would make sense. I mean, of course, it'll be on Xbox anyway because Xbox will have Steam. Although I guess Xbox doesn't have won't have Steam initially, other than the ROG Ally. Oh, that reminds me. Just as a side note, I did get to check out a ROG Ally X, the Xbox Ally X at Best Buy. I mean, it didn't have any way to play games, it seemed, but I at least got to hold it, and it was like, oh, this is very comfortable. I like that. I would never spend $1,000 on that thing, but it's comfortable at least.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. All right. What's the next game on your list?
Next game on my list is Tomb Raider Legacy of Atlantis. Now, we of course talked about last week about there being a Tomb Raider game, possibly two, and this is one of the ones that they did announce. Now, it is essentially a remake of the first game, which initially I was thinking, why do we need this? Because in addition to the remaster that came with the 1, 2, 3 collection, there was also Tomb Raider Anniversary, which was sort of a remake of the original game back in like 2000 something or another. So we've definitely had a remake already. But this one seems promising. It seems like it's going to be faithful to the original game. It's not going to have any more, I mean, there might be some things that improve the quality of life, but there's not going to be like anything from the Survivor trilogy, essentially. So it's going to be a pretty much more or less faithful remake of the first game, which I think is cool. I think it's great. I think it looks beautiful graphically. The different, of course, animations with the parkour and stuff looks good. I definitely think that's great. And of course, still going back to the combats with like just the dual pistols, that's definitely great. I still have yet to finish the remaster collection. I even like recently got 4, 5, and 6. So I still need to go back and replay those because I did play Anniversary. But yeah, this seems I'm optimistic that this will turn out well. From what I've seen so far, it won't be a day one purchase for me, but it's something that I would be interested in getting at the very least. So yeah, I think that's good. Of course, having 3 Tomb Raider games that were the same game but with different names is just going to make things confusing in the future. It's like, oh yeah, I'm playing Tomb Raider 1. Oh, you're talking about like Tomb Raider 1, you're talking about the Anniversary Edition, you're talking about Legacy of Atlantis. So
to be fair, I mean, the original Tomb Raider is called Tomb Raider, and then the Anniversary is called Anniversary, and then this one's called Legacy of Atlantis. Though there is also the 2013 one that's just called Tomb Raider. So
yep. But yeah, I think this one definitely looked good, and glad that the prediction for this one was wrong on our
no kidding.
But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's 2 reasons for this. Number one is because 30th anniversary. I mean, perfect time to do a like full beautiful remake, presumably Unreal Engine 5. Hopefully it's actually reasonably well, if not very well optimized. I think the other thing is that because of all of the backlash they've had regarding the previous reveal of Tomb Raider stuff where like they basically made her look more masculine, it's very clear that they decided, okay, we have to go back to the beginning and we need to go with the original design as much as possible. they maybe made her proportions a little less ridiculous from the original, but still like not to where they haven't toned it down necessarily, because like she's very beautiful and, you know, looks like a woman instead of like a man. And it seems like the gameplay, you know, all sorts of different aspects of the gameplay are very reminiscent of the original game and everything. So I mean, I think it looks great. I don't know necessarily how soon I would play something like this, especially because of the fact that really just more than anything because of the fact that I'm not sure if this is a game I want to play that much. But I kind of want to play the older ones, or at least, you know, the remasters more than this. But at the same time, it's something that I could at least see myself playing down the line. I think I would just have to, I don't know. We'll just see what happens on all of that. Either way, I think it looks very promising. The other one that's coming out in 2027, which I wasn't really planning to talk about today, since it was just a basically just a cutscene revealing that there was one coming, and then they revealed this one coming next year. That also looks really promising, or at least theoretically based on character designs and all that. So, but yeah. All right. I think that the next game is the last one I have. Yeah. Okay. So the last one I have on my list is Star Wars: Fate of the Old Republic. And this one, even though right now it's just a teaser trailer, and the studio was, I guess, only formed in 2025, what makes this potentially promising, and I'm cautiously optimistic about, is the fact that they brought back Casey Hudson, who was the writer for Knights of the Old Republic, and for at least the first Mass Effect, if not all three of the Mass Effect trilogy. I'm not positive on that. But either way, it's like Casey Hudson, you know, his involvement was very notable. Now, of course, I remain cautiously optimistic on it, only because of the fact that with the way Star Wars has been outside of like Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor, I'm not entirely sure if it's going to be good, but once again, Casey Hudson being involved gives me a little more hope. And even though Jason Schreier said that he was not expecting the game to come before 2030, Casey Hudson said that it's not going to be that long. So don't worry about that. But yeah, I'm willing to give this one. I'll give it a little bit of faith towards it potentially being good.
Yeah, that definitely was a bit of a surprise to see. I don't know. I'm even though Casey is involved, like you said, most of modern Star Wars is just
Garbage.
Yep. So I am skeptical. I just don't want to be burned by this. So I am going to just wait and see what happens. And, you know, if it seems like it'll be a pretty sort of good continuation of the Knights of the Old Republic games, then, you know, I might go and pick it up. But I'm just hesitant right now, and whatnot. So yeah, it sounds promising, but we've only had the one cinematic trailer, so we don't know much of anything else.
Right.
So we'll just have to wait and get more details. It's definitely, it would be nice though if it does come before 2030 though. That would definitely be cool.
Yeah, for sure. All right, well, that's all I got. Did you have anything else?
Final thing from me, and this is just because we finally got closure, was the statue that has been teased constantly, and that ended up being Divinity. And so initially I thought it was supposed to be a remake of the first game, but apparently it's just a continuation from what I saw somewhere. But
Yeah, I think so.
But yeah, it's definitely a surprise. Was not expecting that to be what the statue was, but I guess it makes sense. And we didn't see any actual gameplay. It was more so just cinematics.
Yeah.
But I've heard that unlike the first game, which was more of a computer RPG, dungeon crawler RPG, this is going to be turn-based, sort similar to Larian's more recent works like Baldur's Gate 3. So that's definitely gonna be, I guess, a interesting departure from how the older games played. But I've heard that Baldur's Gate 3 had the gameplay is phenomenal. So I have no doubts that even though the gameplay will be different this time around, that they won't be. That I have no doubt that they'll be able to pull it off successfully and do something great there. So we definitely found out what the truth is. Was not what I was expecting to see, but we definitely learned what the statue was for. And it won't be. It probably might not be something that I get. I mean, it definitely be something I get day one. It'll be something I would probably get down the road, because I still haven't played. I mean, I have the original Divinity. I have also, I think, Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, and then I like some of the other games in the franchise. So I definitely have to go back and play those games. So I definitely won't be getting this anytime soon, just because there's so much in the backlog that I have to get to beforehand.
Yeah,
I would say.
First, I just want to note, I'm not playing a trailer for this because it was just extremely graphic and gory, and yeah, it was like, no, I'm not going to play that on the show here. It went a little too far for my taste. Honestly, it kind of turned me off from being interested in the game, but I'm not saying that I'm not going to be willing to give it a chance, but I haven't played any of their other games. I mean, the closest I ever came was the tiny bit that I played of the first Baldur's Gate on Steam Deck, where it just didn't control very well. But I do have that Baldur's Gate collection on Switch now, where it's actually designed, built to work well with controllers. So eventually I'll probably check that out. And I think I might have a Divinity game or two on GOG, but I'm really not sure. I'd have to look at my GOG library to be sure one way or another. But yeah, I mean, definitely wasn't what I was expecting. But once I saw, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. I could see that. That makes perfect sense. Yeah, the trailer though, that very much made me think of like Diablo, with how gruesome and gory it was and everything. And the thing about Diablo is that most of the time, I mean, apart from some of the cutscenes, you're not seeing that stuff because it's, zoomed out, and like any of the gruesome stuff, like you're not close up enough to really like see that. Most of the time you're just killing hordes of monsters constantly, because it's an action RPG. And yeah, so I'm sure this game could be very good, and I just, like I said, I've never played any of the other Divinity games, so I don't really know anything about them. Maybe I'll check out one of them next year or sometime in the future. But yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, if there's is there anything else you want us to talk about before we close out for the night? Do a shorter episode this week?
No, I don't think I have anything else to bring up.
All right, sounds good. So, recommendations and dissuasions. Start us off.
All right, a couple recommendations from me. The first one is play Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's definitely something that we've recommended multiple times this year, and we can't stress it enough. I mean, this is definitely a solid game. It has great characters. The writing is phenomenal. It has excellent combats. The music is sensational.
Yep.
You know, you can clearly see as you play the game why it won every category it was nominated for. You know, music, art direction. You know, I know, and I know that there definitely are reasons why people would be miffed as to why it swept the whole thing, and there definitely were, you know, we definitely had other games that were good this year. I mean, we had Hollow Knight, Silksong, we had Hades 2, but you can still, I think you should still be able to understand why Expedition 33 cleared the way it did, just because it was a solid experience. And playing through, you know, I both again with the game and I see stuff or know stuff that you wouldn't notice the first time when you play the game, and it's only afterwards you have an aha moments. But it's definitely those details that just make you go, huh, that's really interesting the way they did that. And then the new content they have is definitely just enjoyable as a good continuation of what made the game great in the first place. So definitely recommend playing that game. It is just that good, and it is game of the year. But other recommendation is going to be, if you're trying to find RAM in these trying times, I recommend looking for a bundle. That's going to be how you could possibly get RAM for either roughly MSRP or slightly above the original MSRP. Newegg definitely has combos that they've circulated here and there, and some of them have been pretty decent. So I mean, if you're not looking for something or different parts, because you do of course have to buy something additional to the RAM, like a motherboard or like a CPU or something like that. I mean, one thing you could do is just, you know, sell the parts you don't need, and, you know, just get some money back that way. Or if it's or if you know are already looking for trying to get like parts to build a PC, then that's good that you have that combo and you can get those parts that you need there. So I would definitely recommend that. And if you're located near one, I've heard that Micro Center is starting to bring back combos that include RAM. They cut those out right around the RAM crisis, right around when it started. So after that point, they like cut RAM out of the deal, so you only can get like this CPU and the motherboard. But I believe they've started to bring that back, so that's definitely a good way to get RAM close to MSRP. So yeah, so if you're looking for, you know, DDR5, that's definitely the best way to get it in these trying times. But yeah, that's all I've got.
All right. Good stuff. Well, I'm going to recommend, first of all, check out the Final Fantasy 8 or Final Fantasy 7 remake demo on the Switch 2 if you have a Switch 2. Particularly if you don't have a Steam Deck, because I mean, if you've already played it on Steam, you're not necessarily going to get a better experience, especially because it's, you know, locked at 30 frames per second. And I've heard there's even some dips. But it looks really good. It's like a great showcase for what the Switch 2 can do in terms of visual fidelity and everything. So I think it's worth at least checking out the demo. I'm also going to recommend, even though I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but it does seem to be well optimized, checking out the demo on, I mean, if you're on PC at least, because it's not available on consoles yet, as far as I know, the demo for Pragmata from Capcom. I haven't had a chance to check and see how the performance looks on Steam Deck, but on PC it seems to be very well optimized, and the system requirements are surprisingly low. So I'm definitely I'm hoping to check that out this week. I just haven't gotten around to it, so we'll if I get a chance to play it before next week, I will be reporting back on how it performs. But yeah, I feel like there's something else, but I don't remember what it was, so we can just move on. Dissuasions.
My dissuasion is going to be, do not play Expedition 33 on the Steam Deck. It's quote-unquote verified, but it's not an enjoyable experience. I mean,
No.
even if you can get the frame rate to a, I guess you could say, tolerable range, graphically it just looks so bad.
Yeah.
And I even feel like even if you did try to focus on the graphics, it just still does not look all that great. So don't play it there. And I mean, as much as I love my Steam Deck, it's just obvious the fact that it can't play everything. Some stuff is just going to be beyond its capabilities. So I think that's just something that we have to expect and just, limit our expectations. I mean, down the road with the Steam Deck 2, it probably would be able to run this, fairly decently. And I feel like the Xbox Ally X, that should be able to run this at, say, 720p, 60 FPS, probably. Of course, it's still an Unreal Engine 5 game, so I don't know how much of that is a factor in the performance, but it should definitely do better. So definitely don't play it on the Steam Deck. It's just not gonna have you're not gonna have a good experience there, and play it elsewhere where you will have an enjoyable experience. Also, while I was testing it on the Steam Deck, some of the character models, at least their hair, ended up being a completely different color.
Yeah.
Which was like, okay, that's weird. But yeah, it just don't play the game on the Steam Deck. But do play it though.
Yes. Agreed. All right. My dissuasion. I didn't have one written down, but I mean, I will agree. Don't play Expedition 33 on the Steam Deck. I mean, if you have no other way to play it, and you really can be okay with bad performance, that's fine. But I mean, like, I would say, if don't play it unless you're playing it sparingly. Don't play it if that's your only way to play it. I think the performance is just way too rough. I mean, that combination of performance and visuals. It's not impossible to play, but it's just not really enjoyable either. Honestly, I have a feeling that whenever the game inevitably comes to Switch 2, it'll probably be only 30 frames per second, but I think it will look better, most likely. Especially because it'll be able to use DLSS, which is much better than FSR. So yeah, I guess I'll just second your dissuasion on that front. I'm sure there's something else I'm forgetting about, but that is where I'm going to leave it. So, where can people find you?
They can find my channel. I am Xeracon. That's IAMXCRACON. So youtube.com/@IamXeracon. Friday, hopefully will be the Christmas live stream, playing Batman Arkham Origins, going from beginning to either the end of the game or until I first die. So we'll see how that goes. You can definitely come check it out. I'll start around 7:30 Eastern time. I just have to get dinner stuff taken care of beforehand, but it'll be around that time. And throughout the live stream, I'll have some game codes to give away as well. So
nice.
you can definitely check that out too. But yeah, that's what I have for that. Oh, and I have my other channel, Justin's Bible Blog. That's at Justin's Bible Blog. No new content right now, but I do have some ideas in the works. I just need to get recorded and whatnot. But yeah, that's everything I have.
All right, sounds good. Yeah, I'll definitely make sure to swing by your stream and hopefully at least get to watch a little bit. I mean, I know it's not going to be a ton because it's still, family night and all that, but probably when I'm at least working on PowerPoint and everything else, I can tune in for a little bit, at least until the kids go to bed, and then I'll be hanging out with the wife. But yeah, we'll see how things go. Either way, I'll at least drop by for a little bit, say hi, and see where you are in the game. All right. And as far as where you can find me, I have my YouTube gaming channel at The Frozen Gamer 87. And there hasn't been anything new in a bit, but I'm hoping to start getting some stuff recorded during my Christmas break. My goal is to get like 3 videos recorded, one of which being that review for the controller, another one being the downsides of PC gaming, because I promised that one a while back and I just haven't gotten to it yet. And the third one, if I get 3 done, would be talking about the misconceptions about PC gaming. That one is the least likely of the 3 to happen, but I'm hoping I can find the time to work on that. The main thing is that I do actually have, a good amount of time off because of the fact that I'm not working at all the week of Christmas and most of the week after that. I'm just going into work that Friday on the 2nd, so I should have time. It's just a matter of buckling down and doing the work. So there's that. Then there's also the YouTube channel and Rumble channel for the podcast, where you can view the video version of the podcast every Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time, barring any technical issues. I'm on YouTube. That's at the Orange Box Podcast. On Rumble, it is not a custom URL, but you can still find it very easily. Then there's also the audio-only version of the podcast, which goes live on all audio podcast platforms, or at least all major ones, every Friday at 12 a.m. Central Time, once again, barring any technical issues. I do want to note with both of these, both the video and audio versions for next week's episode, the plan is to release it on Christmas Day. We'll be recording earlier in the week, God willing, hopefully Sunday. Monday could work as well if we need to. Actually, no, Monday will not work because Monday is when I'm having people over. So, Sunday, it could be Tuesday at the very latest, but my preference would be to do it Sunday if we can make that work. So, and even if there's no gaming news, we can find stuff to talk about. So it'll be good, and that'll release on Christmas Day, God willing. And then, oh yes, lastly, I do have a YouTube cooking channel, Not Authentic But Delicious. That's YouTube at NABD Cooking, and hasn't been anything new in about a year, but the recipes are still up there for you to check out. Lots of really good stuff and well worth making. Basically all of it. Actually, well, yeah, I would say all of it. All of it's good. So that is everything. So, last chance. Any final thoughts?
No, sir.
All right, well, I am the Frozen Gamer 87. That is I am Zeracon. We are the Orange Box Podcast. And until next time, don't attend an awards ceremony dressed up as a clown. Orange Box Podcast, out.